You know, let's talk about the quiet ones. Yeah, those people in the room who don't say much, but you get the feeling they see everything. Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on their hidden strengths. And hey, you might just find there's a quiet observer in you too.
Seriously, think about it for a second. Have you ever been at a meeting or a party, or even just hanging out with friends, and you realize you're doing way more listening than talking? If that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone, and you are in exactly the right place. So this right here, this really gets to the heart of the misunderstanding. On the left, you've got what everyone thinks is going on. They see silence and label it shy, bored, or maybe even disinterested. But on the right, that's the reality. That silence isn't empty. It's buzzing with activity. It's processing. It's analyzing. It's observing. Okay, so let's really dig in and unpack this whole idea of the misunderstood observer. It's time to see what's really going on behind that quiet exterior. This is the absolute key takeaway. We have this tendency to think quiet equals scared or shy, but for so many people, it's not about a fear of speaking at all. It's a deliberate choice. It's them taking the time they need to really digest what's being said, to understand the tone, the context, and what it all actually means before they jump in. So let's try looking at this from a totally new angle. Instead of seeing quietness as a lack of something, like a lack of confidence, let's redefine it. Let's see it as a very specific and actually very powerful way of engaging with the world around us. All right, here's a good working definition for us. A quiet observer isn't just a wallflower passively watching things happen. No way. They are actively decoding the entire conversation. They're picking up on the tone of voice, the unspoken feelings, the logic or lack of logic in an argument, and only after all that processing do they decide if their input is even needed. And this brings us to a really fantastic concept called intellectual humility. It's a kind of wisdom, really. It's this deep understanding that you don't have to voice every single thought that pops into your head. It's about knowing that real understanding comes from listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk. It's quality over quantity, every time. So what does this actually look like day to day? How do they do it? Well, we can actually break it down into 6 key habits that really define this whole skill set. You see, these 6 habits all work together like gears in a machine. It all kicks off with active observation. They're just noticing those little details most of us miss. That feeds into emotional analysis and logical processing. They're figuring out the why behind the what. And this whole engine is fueled by that intellectual humility we just talked about. And what's the result? They end up naturally filtering out the small talk because they're always seeking something deeper. And honestly, this one is huge. If you've ever wondered why that quiet friend or coworker seems to just tune out sometimes, this is probably why. It's not that they're being rude, it's that the conversation feels like it's skimming the surface. They're basically conserving their mental energy for conversations that have a little more meat on the bone. This shows that contrast perfectly, doesn't it? The quiet observer might seem to drift off during talk about the weather or idle gossip, but you want to talk about big ideas or the hidden logic behind a complicated problem or the unspoken emotional currents in a room? Oh, that's when you'll see them light up. That is their playground. So what's the big takeaway here? What does this all add up to? Well, these habits aren't just personality quirks. They are genuine strengths. They're like superpowers, especially in a world that is constantly, and I mean constantly, rewarding the loudest person in the room. And these are those superpowers right here. Because they take the time to process, they can see the entire picture, not just the next obvious move. They're incredible at understanding group dynamics. They catch those little inconsistencies in an argument that just fly by everyone else. And because of all that, when they finally do speak, their insights are usually incredibly thoughtful and powerful. They can even have this amazing calming effect on a really heated discussion. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. In a world that seems like it just cannot stop talking, a world that's all about reacting instantly, what are we all missing? What crucial details, what deeper truths, what quiet wisdom are we just letting slip by because we're not taking the time to truly observe? Maybe, just maybe, the real power isn't in speaking first, but in understanding best.